Hi, Chris Haddon here with REI 360 Show, episode number 4. With me as always, Jason Balin, my business partner, and today we have Jon Delbrugge, professional MMA fighter. It's mixed martial arts, in case you're not familiar, like UFC, if you're not a fan. That's what he does for a living, among a couple other things. Question number 1, I'm sure, is what would our REI 360 show about real estate, business, marketing, and all that have to do with a pro MMA fighter? And there's a good answer to that. A lot of what we talk about in business and life and everything else is just about getting really, really good at something that's really hard. And Jon has done that. And it absolutely applies to what we do and everyone watching, hopefully as well. Backing up for one quick second. I've known Jon for a number of years, and it's actually kind of a funny coincidence that we ended up as office neighbors, which we are. We'll get there in a second. But I guess it was years ago, wasn't it? Probably 6, 7 years ago.
Oh yeah.
When we met.
I'll say about 7 years ago. Yeah.
Probably about 7 years ago, and you were just finishing up your college football career and moving into martial arts.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep. It was. You had already been training previously at a different place, and I had just gotten started training at this particular gym called Crazy 88, and through Dave, a mutual friend, brought you in, and then that's just kind of how it happens. And then in martial art, the martial arts community is real tight with each other. So once you start training for a certain amount of time, you automatically develop a certain camaraderie and closeness and friendship. So I mean, I consider you a decently close friend for the last 6, 7 years, like you said.
Sure. I remember when you came in, you were huge too. You're a huge football player.
Yeah, it was. The body type was different because different sports. So it was weird because I spent a lot of time in one sport that promoted like constant eating and trying to get big and lifting and just always increasing size, to going to another sport where it's like, okay, now you have to watch what you eat and you have to want to be as strong as possible but also be as small as possible. So it took some time to change my body type because in martial arts, it's a weight class sport. It's not just it's not like football where everybody's you want to be as big as possible. So it took me a couple years to try to kind of reshape my body, but I did it, and it's probably healthier for me, to be honest.
You think?
It's probably, yeah. I'm pretty sure.
200 pounds.
Eating red meat and lifting weights every single day, and
sounds like a great time to do.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think it's that great for you.
That could be.
Sure.
That could be. All right, so fast forwarding a little bit. After we would train together, Jon was seriously getting into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, later on kickboxing, Muay Thai, everything else, and then later on mixed martial arts. Also, for a long time, Jon's family has had a salon, a hair and beauty salon, right?
Yep.
And what's the name of that, and where can people find that online?
It's called Vivid Salon and Spa. And you can find it online. You just go to Google, or you can type in the address bar, besthairsaloncolumbia.com, or just type in Vivid Salon and Spa in Columbia. You'll be able to find it. If you just type in like Hair Salon Columbia, Maryland in Google, we'll start popping up. So like Chris said, my family has always been in the beauty industry, and for the last 10 years, we've had a location in the Howard County area. And then previously, before we moved into Howard County, we had a location in Montgomery County in the Olney area for about 20 years, so 25 years. So I grew up in the salon. People are like, man, why you're like a fighter, but you're involved in the beauty salon and stuff like that. It's just because that's just what I grew up in. It's not it's all I know. So it's interesting.
Yeah. So the coincidence I was talking about is when we were looking for this office, Jason and I were looking for space around Columbia because we were growing out of the last one, and we've talked about that. So it was really just a coincidence. We were, probably the first time we came here, maybe you had been here before, and we were checking out the space with the agent, and I saw a Vivid Salon next door, and I knew it from Facebook and around social media. I was like, is that the same one? I wasn't even sure where the location was, but yeah, just coincidentally, we ended up right next door to Vivid here in Columbia, Maryland, and so we get to hang out, we have lunches and holidays and stuff like that too. Of course, it's easy to come over next door for a video shoot. Yeah, so here we are. All right, let's get into some of the meat and potatoes of what we wanted to discuss. Mixed martial arts, if you're not familiar with it, is well, just like it sounds mixed, there's a number of different disciplines that go into it. Each one, like getting to be an expert at any one of the 5 or 6 can be a lifelong pursuit and a very, very difficult thing. You want to touch a little bit on that? Like how you have to be so well balanced and trained in so many different things?
Yeah, absolutely. Like to take it back to like the origins of MMA and mixed martial arts, almost everybody has at least kind of vaguely heard about the UFC. So like the UFC is guys like fighting in a cage. It looks very crazy and barbaric, and in the first couple of UFCs there was like almost no rules. There was no weight classes, and it was really a true like old school kumite style like blood sport fighting, where all guys from different styles of martial arts would come and they would test out their martial art against another practitioner from a different martial art. And it was like, what I mean by old school kumite is like, if you're a karate guy and you're going against a kickboxer guy, or like if you're a wrestler and you're going against a kickboxer guy or a karate guy, the wrestler's not going to really know any striking at all because he's just representing his form of martial art, And then the karate guy or the striker guy is just going to be a striker guy, So it's going to be a true battle of like, just using what you have. Nowadays, it's completely different because, like Chris was saying, you have MMA is mixed of all the martial arts that are effective under the rule set that now is underneath of is governed by MMA. MMA has rules now. It's regulated by weight classes, athletic commissions. It's a bona fide professional sport, and so now when things become professional and when there's money involved and there's regulatory bodies and sanctioning things like that, the guys, everything gets better, including the fighters themselves. So like MMA is a mixture of like the grappling martial arts, it's a mixture of the striking martial arts, And so when you talk about grappling, you're talking about like a sport like wrestling. I'm not talking about WWE or anything. It's like the
like high school
Olympic wrestling, collegiate
wrestling.
high school wrestling. Then you're talking about judo, which is another form of like takedown grappling. Not so much submissions yet. And then you got Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is is how me and Chris met. Training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that's
and what Parker Balin does now too, Jason's son.
Yes,
that's right.
Also
training Jiu-Jitsu.
Very good, yeah, and now Jiu-Jitsu is super popular. It is. I would say not even 4 or 5 years ago it was still like underground. Now the hipsters got a hold of it. Now it's like popularized.
Hipsters are training now?
Oh yeah.
I would say that's probably the #1 martial arts compared to all the other trades.
For sure.
Nationwide, you think? You think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is #1 now?
I would say, especially the guys that at least I see in the MMA related to or MMA, UFC stuff like that, because I don't know. It seems like it's got a whole. I guess just the way that the moves are, and I don't train jiu-jitsu. I'm just a spectator, obviously. But it seems like that style of martial arts is
without
just been popular.
The striking,
yeah, exactly.
Sort of thing.
That gives a lot of people the competitive advantage inside the UFC when they have that background.
It's the only martial art that you need to have, because like it's really one of the only martial arts that will work against any other martial art because of the simple fact that you can fight on the ground off of your back. So at any given time, you can grab somebody and pull them on top of you.
Sure.
Now, in almost every other martial art, that's like stick a fork in you. You're done.
Right. But you're still on offense.
You're still on offense. And no other martial art besides jiu-jitsu teaches you how to deal with being on top of somebody that's trying to break your arm or choke you or something like that. So that's like one thing that really sets jiu-jitsu apart in my eyes, and that's why it makes it really important. It doesn't mean that if you're really good at jiu-jitsu, you're going to smoke everybody. Because you could have an extremely high level jiu-jitsu and be going against another guy who doesn't have an extremely high level, but he only needs to have a certain amount of knowledge of things to make sure that he keeps it in the realm of where he's comfortable at.
In today's MMA.
In today's MMA. Back in the day, there was a reason why a 175-pound guy was beating everybody, because they did not know jiu-jitsu.
Hoist Gracie
won the first, I believe, 3 UFCs, or 2 UFCs. He didn't win 3, and then he won 4. And then it was because it was like extremely specialized information, It was like he's the only guy doing it. Yeah, nobody knew it.
Yeah.
And so MMA, it's a mixture of everything. So you really have to, you gotta know what to do when you gotta know how to do takedowns. You gotta know how to defend takedowns. You want to know how to strike. You want to throw punches, how to defend against punches, how to throw kicks, how to defend against kicks, and how to escape all the bad positions on the ground. You want to know how to move. The ring generalship, moving around the cage, how to fight against the cage. There's a lot of intricacies that are involved in MMA that have nothing to do with how strong you are or how crazy you are or how much heart you have or how much you believe in yourself. That's all good. You know, you need to have the crazy berserker strength. You need to have the heart, the willpower, but the craziness, you know, and all that stuff. But that only comes into play after you have a skill set, and it takes a long time to build up a skill set to be able to compete at a high level. But too many times the MMA guys come in and they look at UFC and they're not training and they go, oh, I want to go train because I want to do this. Right. And then they get in there and then the coach is like, okay, well, where do you come from? What's your specialty? What's your background? And they're like, nothing, I want to do MMA. And they're like, it's a problem because you can't just start training MMA and then be good at MMA. It's weird. You know, you have to go into it with the different tools. You have to break it down. You got to break it down. You got to train just striking for a little while. You got to train just grappling for a little while. You got to train, you know, and then you got to start to slowly mix them together. Then you got to start competing in every single one. That's why it takes so much time. People always think, they go, man, well, how old are you? You know, you're almost 30. This is, how long can you keep going? I said, look, fighting is not a young man's game. It's not, because like, you know, as with many other things, like you start to get better as you get older. You know, the trick is just taking care of yourself. You know, you can't burn the candle at both ends. You got to train smart and do all that stuff, and that's where you can use science and all the new stuff to help you out. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. You know, it's not just athleticism and willpower and determination like a lot of people think. A lot of people say, look, my man's crazy. My friend, he's super crazy. He's tough, and he would win. He would knock this guy out.
Yeah, that kind of leads me into a question that we kind of all have for multiple sports that's also related to business is what's more important, you know, mental strength or physical strength, or knowing your trade, or just kind of having the willpower or the smarts. Yeah,
the nature versus nurture
yeah.
idea.
And, you know, it's not necessarily willpower. Sometimes it's just being smart. And, you know, you compare that to, you know, whatever. I mean, you compare it to a UFC fighter, you compare it to, you know, let's say a defensive end on a football team. Let's say they both weigh the exact same amount. They can bench press the same. They can leg press the same. And strength-wise, physically, they're the same. But mentally, one guy is always going to be better.
That's where that mental advantage will come into play. Is when all the other things and variables are the same. Sure. You know, strength is the same. Body, that's the same. Technique-wise, is the same. Well, it's going to come down to who's got it in here and who's got it in here.
Exactly, and that's why, you know, someone like Tiger Woods in the golf space, you know, when he's on his game, I mean, can he hit the longest drive? No. Can he make the most amount of putts? No. Can he do all these things better? You know, there's guys that can do everything better than him in each individual segments. Obviously, he's put it all together, and he's great at all of them. And you know, but it's that mental game over and over and over. And I think that's in sports. I think that's in business. You know, do we know real estate investing better than anybody else? Absolutely not. I mean, arguably, how well do we even know real estate investing? You know, we know it enough, but, you know, we have...
No, we're on it all the time.
We're on it, and, you know, there's the action side of it. There's, you know, the smart side of it. There's the willpower of it. So I think high-level sports, high-level business owners, all of that stuff is the same thing. You know, if you're a, let's call it, use the term outlier. If you're a master at, you know, whatever your sport is, whatever that is, I mean, you don't have to be in that sport. You can, as far as I'm concerned, you could take the skills and what you have in place there, and really, if you wanted to, move that to something else. Maybe it's another sport.
Translates to a lot of different
things.
Exactly.
Maybe it's a business. I'm not saying that's going to happen overnight. You can't all of a sudden say, hey, you know, I'm gonna stop, you know, fighting MMA and, you know, play in the NFL. But it's possible. You know, you have the drive. You're mentally strong enough. You have the willpower to do it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, people tend to excel and really put their all into the things that they like and that they're good at. Like when I would train jiu-jitsu, which I don't do so much anymore, but they would say in competition or in mixed martial arts, you hear say, like, some people have a breaking point where you'll break, and I would break. It would hurt, and I would get injured, and people would be on top of me, and I'd be going through my head like, this sucks. I just can't wait till this ends. Because it's not my thing. I mean, I'm not a fighter. I'm not built to be a fighter. It's not like, you know, for me. But I know that I go in on business-related stuff. That is for me. And, you know, kind of dialing in on what your thing is, how far you can take it, is a really important part of getting excellent at anything. And like I was saying at the beginning, exactly why this this interview applies so much to our audience and the whole REI 360 community. So let's back up a little bit to what we were saying. Some of the things that go into getting this good at something that's so difficult, has to do with the constant training and preparation. Break down a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, John, what a given week is like.
Yeah. So like real quick, just to go back, and they're talking about how you guys were talking about how like, you know, high level sports, high level business are like interconnected, intertwined with each other. A lot of the same habits you have to take, you know, the habits of like a high level professional athlete who's doing all the right things is going to have very similar habits as a high level business entrepreneur or a CEO or somebody like that. They're going to have very similar things, you know, and one might be very physical and the other one might be more mental, but like, you know, they're very closely related. They're extremely closely related. It's crazy because what it takes to be good at something is almost universal, you know, so like,
Agreed.
It's just, I mean, you might be doing different activities, but the breakdown of it, the way you map everything out, and the way, you know, you always got to be pushing it to its limits, and you got to find out the best way to do that, you know, without costing yourself the most amount of money, without burning through, you know, what you have. And same thing with your body as an athlete. You got to figure out how to push it to its limits without killing yourself, so that you can be fresh. And you know, because your body's like, you got to invest in your body just like you got to invest in your business. So they go hand in hand. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you want to become great at something, it's not just like you're not just going to get lucky by becoming great at something, or you can't just naturally be good at it. And which a lot of people think that's it. You know, so
it's a good start.
Yeah, it's a good start. Sure.
Yeah.
It's going to help you progress a little bit faster, but at the end of the day, you really got to, you know what you're doing, want to be where you're at, and want to do what you do. So to get back to your question, like what a typical week is like, it really all depends. And if we're in a training camp for a fight, we're getting ready for a fight. Typically, we like to start. I like to start training hard for a fight and start focusing all the training and the regimens and stuff about 8 weeks before the date of the fight, because I know that in 2 months I can get really, really good 7 intense weeks of training, and I can really kind of just buckle down and dial into my diet, and then cut out like all the external factors, like, you know, going out and you know, with your family and drinking or something. And when I mean drink, I don't mean like binge drink. I don't do that even when I'm not getting ready for a fight, but like even just going out and having a couple drinks with the family sometimes. Like if you can abstain from stuff like that for 8 weeks, like it really kind of puts you into like a really, like it puts you into a good place. And a lot of people are like, they look at something like, man, not even be able to go out with your family for 8 weeks and have a drink. I mean, I'm not saying you don't go out with your family and enjoy yourself, but you know, I like to give, I say, all right, for this next 8 weeks, it's going to be serious, you know, and everything I do is going to be, I'm going to be thinking about my date, you know, 8 weeks from now. You know, I have a fight coming up April 18th. Everything I do every single day right now is devoted to that date, you know. Like if I drink something, I'm like, okay, I'm putting this in my body. Is this gonna hurt me or help me for April 18th, you know? So like,
so you're at the beginning of camp now.
Yeah, I'm in the beginning of camp now. I'm not getting stressed out by any of this stuff, you know. You know, you really have to embrace it and like it, and so it is going to stress you out. It's going to test your patience and stuff like that, but that's just how it goes. So 8 weeks, I like to start, you know, really dialing in, getting my mindset ready, getting my body ready, and then really like, you know, the coaches will kind of start to map out the training for you and what you'll be doing every day. But typically, it's two practices a day. We'll have one either at 9 o'clock and it'll go from 9 to 11, or we'll have one at 10 o'clock that'll go from 10 to 1. And then we'll have training sessions at night that go from 8 to 9:30. So, and that's Monday through Friday, and then I take Saturdays off, and then Sundays I'll do 12 to 4. And on the Saturday it's recovering, and then in between training sessions it's recovering, and you know, and you know, going about your life, doing whatever you have to do, because part of the big things a fighter has to deal with, especially when they're up and coming, before they make, you know, before we're getting the 6-figure, 7-figure fights and stuff like that, we still have obligations that we do. We're just not like, you know, we just can't train, go home and have our, you know, maids and house doctors take care of us and help us recover. You know, a lot of guys work different jobs. A lot of guys run martial arts schools. A lot of guys teach. So it is a constant grind. So you have to balance, you know, your everyday life with your profession as well. and it can get a little tricky at times, but you really have to, a good thing, one of my mentors told me a long time ago is you want to take care of the little things in life, because the little things will turn into big things. You know, like I know some fighters, some up-and-coming fighters that aren't in a really a great place financially, and you know they get pulled over and get a $25 failure stop at a stop sign ticket, right? And they don't pay it. They don't pay it. They just forget about it. They don't show up to court and everything like that.
Right.
Yeah.
A year later, that thing they owe like $1,500 on it now. You know, and they don't have $1,500 from it. So now this little $25 problem became like a huge financial burden to them. So it's you know, getting ready for a fight in a typical day of training. It's not just training and not like and not just focusing on that, which you have to do, but it's also, you know, you have to have a good balance of your personal life with your family, and you have to work, you know, you have to support yourself, you have to pay your bills, you got to do all that stuff, and the training sessions are not easy, you know. 8 weeks out is when you really want to start turning it up, because if you're 8 weeks out from the fight, that means you got about 7 weeks of training, because the week of the fight you're just cutting weight, you're just kind of not doing anything too intense and getting ready for the fight. So 7 weeks intense training, 2 days a week we're sparring. That means full out MMA sparring. We have 16-ounce gloves on, headgear and shin pads, but everything is full go. We don't pull any punches, we don't pull any kicks. We're going 100%. That's, you know, takedowns, kickings, knees,
twice a week.
Elbows twice a week.
Because there's a limit to how much you can do.
Tuesdays and Fridays, yeah, there's definitely a limit. You don't want to be pounding your head in all the time and killing your brain cells. It's not good. It's not good for you. You know, so you really training hard doesn't mean running into a wall 100 times and be like, all right, I feel beat up. That was a good day. You know, you want to make sure you're going in with every practice is focused. Even the sparring sessions, we're not going in there and just like, I'm going to kick this guy's butt, and everybody I'm going with, I'm just going to smash him. You know, it's like, what are you working on that day? You know, before every practice, we got things that we're going over. We have you know, different goals for the day. How many takedowns are you going to be trying to get per round? You know, how many jabs are you going to throw? How many strikes are you going to throw? And sometimes you don't have a coach always watching you and helping you plan out your training camps and stuff as an up-and-coming fighter. And that's why it's really important to surround yourself with being a real team, being with like, you know, real coaches that have been there before, that have gotten guys from where you're at to where you want to go. And it's just like a mentor, like a business mentor, you know? Like, you don't want to take business advice from a guy who has never been to where you want to go, or take your business to where you want to take your business to, and that doesn't have any money and is broke and stuff like that. You just, and in martial arts, and especially MMA, because of the big boom, MMA boom, it's becoming really popular, that there's so many, you know, just bad schools, bad coaches that are just training guys up, throwing them out there in fights, and then just ruining guys' dreams. Because you go out there and you take a beating, there's nothing like taking a beating in front of your friends and family, you know? You know, and like losing a close fight is one thing, going out there, having a good one, and then getting clipped and knocked down or knocked out is one thing. But just going out there and getting a 15-minute beat down where you have no answer for anything,
not good for anybody.
It's not good.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm impressed, and I think that could be related to, you know, business in general, and a lot of things. I mean, I know a lot of our viewers are business owners, or they strive to be entrepreneurs or things like that. But kind of creating a clear path and kind of seeing that vision of exactly where you want to get to. You know, a key thing that Chris and I obviously are big on, and obviously you are as well, is having a coach. If you don't have some sort of coach in whatever you're in, I would certainly recommend you looking into that. Also, kind of being around a sphere of influence of like-kind people, you know, because you're going to be the average of the people that you're around. And I mean, you're
of the 5 most people.
Exactly, and that most. You know, that's important. I mean, look around and think about the people that you're currently hanging out with, and you know, are those the types of people you want to be? I mean, Jon's hanging out with, you know, top-level fighters, top-level guys in his space, and he's become a top-level fighter, you know, from it. And, you know, going back to earlier in the show, he hasn't been in it all that long. So, you know, it wasn't that, you know, he was born into a fighting family or whatever. I mean, Chris and I weren't born into an entrepreneurial family or business owners. You know, we found something we were interested in, and we surrounded ourselves by the right people, and we did that. So there's a lot of obviously really good takeaways from that you can relate into your business. And, you know, obviously I'm really impressed with the way Jon has it set up, because he's a top-level fighter, but he also is a business owner. And if you kind of caught some of the tips he was saying earlier, he has a few different domain names that he drives traffic to for Vivid Salon. You know, he's I think the first show we talked about that all of us are just marketers, because that's the most important thing. We can all be the best at what we're at, but if nobody knows who you are or nobody can find your online or offline operation, what's the point?
Right.
So he's in that space if he knew he was in that space, or he wasn't, or if he didn't know he was in that space. So a lot of really good things that I think can be related to just general business or finance or everyday lifestyle.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah, and I like that coaching topic a lot. This comes up here and there, but growing up, we all have various forms of coaches. Like we have teachers, we have sports coaches, we have maybe religious leaders, things like that. And later on too, like you get your personal trainer, you get whatever, you get this and the yoga instructor, tennis coach, whatever you're into. But in business or your profession, your livelihood, people are like, no, that's the one thing I don't need a coach for that. Yeah. I'm going to go
the most important thing too.
Very possibly the most important thing, more important than like your tennis swing. I would say your livelihood, taking care of your family, your financial future. They're like, no, I got this one.
It's
that's
because
the one thing.
What I think about that, because I think about that all the time. Because even I think about that as well, because I tend to want to try to map out my own schedules for my training camps and stuff, and one of my head coaches, Master Lloyd Irvin, he's like, look, that's not how you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it like this, okay? And he's like,
she should.
And he's like, you just gotta trust in me. And the reason why, Chris, you were just saying like, people get all these coaches for all the craziest thing. They get like a diet coach, and they're not like a professional athlete or anything. They're just like a regular person who want to lose weight. So they'll hire the best diet coach. They'll hire a physical trainer to train them. They'll hire a tennis coach, even they're not a professional tennis player. Or they'll hire a professional golf player, even though they just do it as a hobby. But when it comes to their business, where they're really making their bones, that's where they're how they're paying for everything that they have, how they're going to send their kids to college. They will not get any outsource any information or try to get any mentorship or anything, because people are naturally control freaks. They want to be able to be in some sense of control, and that's like sometimes when I think about it, like when it means so much to you, like I just want to have my own say in it. I'm like, it's hard for me to put everything into. Like my coach, my coaches are writing out the thing. I'm like, yeah, but on this day, I think maybe I should do this instead, But and there's all the other reasons too. Just people don't even think about it or whatever have you. But I think a lot of people are just naturally controlling. They want to be able to control the like a real big major part of their life. So they have kind of. It's kind of a gray area for them to be like, all right, I'm not going to let somebody come in and tell me how to run things, Because I've been to business conferences, marketing conferences and stuff, where a guy will be like, okay, well, you have martial arts school, you have to market it this way, you got to do this and this and this, and then the guy will be like, well, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work where I'm at, because my area is different than yours.
Well, that's everybody's excuse for everything. It's not going to work for me.
Doesn't apply to me.
That doesn't apply to me. That doesn't work.
You're right. That's okay.
That stuff applies for everybody.
And then the coach will be like, no, you got to do it. Okay, you got to take that out of your head and throw it away and just do it. And the guy's like, I'm telling you, it's not going to work for me. It doesn't apply to me.
Yeah, we'll have to do a whole episode on coaching, because we could talk to it forever. The amount of coaches that we've had, and I don't know how many coaches Jon's had, but I'm sure it's a lot.
A lot.
I know for the two of us, we have a ton of them.
Yeah.
So we got to do a show on coaching. We also got to do a show on balance, family, work, things like that, because that's obviously important.
All about
I'd love to talk about all that stuff now. We're just running a little bit
short on time. Jon, do you want to tell them where you can, or excuse me, tell them about your fight coming up?
Yeah, so I'll be fighting locally here in Baltimore for the very first time. I'm usually fighting like Atlantic City and Philadelphia. It's real special because we're like probably 15, 20 minutes away from where I'm going to actually fight, and that's going to be in downtown Baltimore at the, I believe it's called the Royal Farms Arena. It used to be called the First Mariner Arena or Baltimore Arena. I'll be fighting there April 18th. It's called Shogun Fights. And
Shogun Fights. Okay.
So I'll have more information about on all my social media links. You can just type in my name on Google and find all my stuff. Jon Delbrugge, MMA. Even on the Vivid Salon and Spa stuff, we'll have cross-promoting fight things as well on there. So I'll be fighting in Baltimore April 18th.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for being on.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
It was good. I like it.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Do it again.
Guys, for next time, on any social media, if you want to ask questions that we'll address in the future, hashtag the REI360 show, and we'll be looking around for those and putting together the questions for answers next time. Thanks again.
Thanks.
Later.